Hello there, my name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being here. Today we are doing my March anticipated releases, the books that are coming out in March that I'm excited for. These are by no means all of the books that are coming out in March, just the ones that seem to interest me, just the ones that I think that I will enjoy. I thought that February had a lot of books that I was excited for, but I think March might take the cake. 18 whole books we gotta talk about, so let's just get started. The first Tuesday in March is March 1st, and that is the first date we are going to talk about. And we're starting with Gallant by VE Schwab. This has a 4.20 on Goodreads right now. This is a YA fantasy paranormal with very strong dark academia themes. Look at that cover. Okay, so I've literally only read Addie LaRue, but that stole and broke and stomped on my heart and put it all back together, and I loved it. It was so beautiful, and it makes me nervous to go back and read her past work because I feel like Addie LaRue might have been the magnum opus. However, I am not afraid to continue and move forward because Schwab should, in theory, have grown as a writer through writing Addie LaRue, and at least in her next book, the writing style and the aspects of Addie LaRue that I did like will follow into her next book because those are good things to take with you moving forward. So we're going to be following Olivia, who receives a letter to attend the school Gallant, but when she gets there, nobody is expecting her and no one really knows who she is. So it kind of seems mysterious in that aspect, and I know I kind of stopped reading. If you've been on this channel for a long time, you know I do not like to read a full synopsis. I feel like a lot of times synopsis writers spoil things that happen in the book that seem to be more important in the book as a reveal. So I try not to read the synopsis too often, or too much of the synopsis. So after I read the part where nobody knows who Olivia is, I just stopped reading because that was enough for me. Mysterious dark academia from the writer of Addie LaRue. I'm excited. The next one I want to talk about is Book of Living Secrets by Madeline Rue. This has a 3.36 on Goodreads right now. It is a YA fantasy horror. Now, I don't read too much YA fantasy horror. I'm never sure where I want to start. So any YA fantasy horror, any YA horror, in fact, that comes out as new, I'm a little bit interested in. This has a lower rating than I'm used to. However, it did catch my eye because it's about two girls who are transported into their favorite story, and it is kind of like a sinister alternate reality of that story. And that just sounds kind of perfect for me. I love things that have to do with books. That's kind of just a selling point for me in a story. If it has anything to do with books in the story, I'm all about it. And it kind of feels like that video game Alice. Anyone play that video game? Watch playthroughs of that video game? I thought it was very creepy, and I feel like this was kind of giving me the same vibes, where it's like the story you know, but sinister and kind of more of an alternate reality version. I love those. I love those. Another book I'm excited for is The Lost Dreamer by Lizz Huerta. It has a 4.32 on Goodreads right now. It is a YA fantasy mythology, a retelling of ancient Mesoamerica. So we're following a lineage of seers who are defiantly resisting a shifting patriarchal state that would see them destroyed. And that's where I stopped reading. It continued on to go more about in detail of the character, and it doesn't seem to be as intergenerational as that first sentence said. However, I do have hope that even though it's not intergenerational, it does play on family lines and your ancestry, and that is what I'm about. Also, I love retellings. I love mythology. I love those aspects. I love when it feels like a myth. That's so cool to me. And if it can be written very well, I have hope that I will love it. Sundial by Catriona Ward has a 4.08. It is adult horror psychological thriller. Look out now. Catriona Ward is also the author who wrote The Last House on Needless Street, which I've heard really good things about, and some things where if the reviewer didn't like it, it seemed like it would be for me. I still haven't read it, but I am interested in it, and so I am also interested in this new book. We are following Rob, who wanted a normal life, and she almost got it. But she sees a darkness in her oldest daughter, Callie, one that reminds her too much of the family she left behind. And that's it. There's nothing scarier to me than children in horror. Children, actors, child characters, they're so horrifying in a horror. You're always nervous for them. They also are creepy. You don't want kids to be hurt, but also you're terrified of them. Why are kids so creepy? And then there's this aspect where it says the family she left behind, and I stopped reading, and I think it's not really the family that she started left behind, but her parents, maybe siblings and all of that. But it does sound really interesting and scary, and I'm excited for that. All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. This has a 4.79 YA fiction. So I have not read a Sabaa Tahir, but I follow her on Instagram. I don't know why. I want to read her series. What is it called? Ember in the Ash, something like that. I want to read that series, but I haven't. And honestly, I don't very often like a contemporary anyways, so I'm not sure how well I'm going to like this, but it is on my radar, and I want to know what people think about it. So this is a dual timeline, which I love, following a family across generations, which I love, about family forgiveness, love, and loss. And I know it also has something to do with Sabaa Tahir said something about how it reflected her own childhood and a teacher that she had that was just awful to her. So something like that. But dual timeline, intergenerational family trauma, I love that. I eat that up. So I'm not sure if I'm going to absolutely love everything about it, but I'm so interested in it, and I want to see what people say in their reviews and see if it'll work for me. And last book coming out on March 1st, this is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. So this is an adult contemporary romance, second in the series to It Happened One Summer, which was that girl from Schitt's Creek. I forget her name. Allison, something like that. And it was she's the main girl character. And I've heard nothing but good things, and it seems really interesting. And I'm trying to expand on my romance authors. Read more authors, but I'm always tentative and nervous because I'm very picky about romance. But if this one has good reviews, then I think that I will just get into this series. So this is following the sister of the first book. A former player falls in love with his new friend, the girl, while trying to hook her up with a different guy. This gives me Ugly Truth vibes. Remember that movie with Katherine Heigl and that other guy? He has an accent, I think. Or did he just play in a movie where he had an accent? Is it Gerard Butler? Oh my god, get out of my face. That movie was amazing. I'm sure if I watched it again, it would be hot garbage, but I freaking loved it. So this is giving me strong Ugly Truth vibes. Like I said, if this gets good reviews, I think I'm going to start this series. But let's move on to March 8th, which is the following Tuesday. We are starting with Blood Scion by Deborah Falaye. Falaye. This has a 4.35 on Goodreads right now. YA fantasy mythology, first in a series. So that makes me a little nervous because I still have all the series that I need to finish right now. But this is the first, so I have some time to deliberate and see if I even want to get into it. I'm no longer getting into series that are not being put out on a timely manner. It's not happening. What I have written down for this book is literally just the top quote, and that's it. This is what they deserve. They wanted me to be a monster. I will be the worst monster they ever created. And it's giving life. It's giving revenge. It's giving female anger. And I'm kind of here for these revenge stories when they're written so well that the characters know that what they're doing is not good, but they're still doing it anyway because of righteous fury. Oh, yes, that's what I'm talking about, okay? That's what I'm saying. All right, the next book coming out on March 8th is A Far Wilder Magic by Allison Saft. This has a 4.22 on Goodreads right now. YA fantasy romance. When Margaret spots the legendary Hala, the last living mythical creature she knows the half-moon hunt will soon follow. She teams up with Weston, a struggling alchemist apprentice, and basically they're trying to stop the hunt / save the Hala. And it seems like it's going to be told in two perspectives, by Margaret and by Weston, and it seems like he's going to be more of like the reserved, nervous type, and she's going to be like, we are going out there, adventurous, like on the offense kind of lady. I think what's going to be the deciding factor for me for this book is the world building and how much of it is discussed, because if this is just a very superficial world building type of story, I don't think that I'll be into it as much. However, if I feel very engaged in the story, in the world, and I fully believe that it's happening, I find that I will have no problem loving this story. The next one is One for All by Lillie Lainoff. I did not write the rating down, so editing Mackenzie will pop it up right here for you. This is a YA historical fiction retelling. So I don't like historical fiction, however, I do like a retelling, and this is a female version of the Three Musketeers, and I don't know about you, but I never read or saw anything real about the Three Musketeers, just the Mickey Mouse version, but I loved it. In which a girl with chronic illness trains as a musketeer to uncover secrets, sisterhood, and self-love, and like, I think I would love that. It doesn't have a romance, which I don't know if it's like I need a romance in a story, or if I just gravitate to stories that have a romance in it, but most of the stories I read have some sort of romantic element to them, and like, I'm positive I don't need a romantic element to my story to enjoy it. But I think that this would be the perfect book to try out to see if I do need it, or if I can just read a story about someone's self-love and sisterhood and adventure, and like, that sounds so cool! Lastly, on March 8th, we have And They Lived by Stephen Salvatore, which has a 4.54 on Goodreads right now. YA contemporary romance, you know I love those. So I'm probably gonna get this on audiobook because that's how I enjoy my YA contemporary romance until I love it so much that I need to have it on physical. Hello, Miss Decembre and Miss Light. I see you. So this is a male romance, fairy tale inspired, celebrating first loves and self-acceptance. And I feel like I truly do. I'm reading something right now that is a YA contemporary romance, male, about like, you know, the universe and soulmates, and I'm hating it, but I know that it is the writing and not necessarily the message or the themes that it's following. So I feel like I'm going to love this. I love that we are getting a male romance from a gay person. It's very exciting because I typically end up reading male romances that are just written by women. So I'm happy to be branching out, at least in my author writings. Oh, this guy also wrote that other one, Can't Take That Away. I didn't read that one, but that cover always got me. Like, maybe I'll read both of them. That sounds good. I can't wait. Moving on to March 15th, we have 3 books to talk about. The first is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. This has a 4.23 on Goodreads. It's the first in a series, adult contemporary romance retelling. If Shakespeare was an auntie. That's the, I think, the series title, and I love that. So this one is a retelling of Taming of the Shrew, Grumpy Sunshine, Arranged Marriage, and I'm pretty sure the grumpy one is the woman, and that is like the only way I love the Grumpy Sunshine dynamic. I hate Sunshine Girls. I don't know why. I love Sunshine Girls in real life, but I can't read them because I feel like they're never written very well. I know they exist in real life, and Sunshine Girls in real life are beautiful, wonderful, positive creatures. They're never written well, and like, it's a disservice. Being Mary Bennet by J.C. Peterson, 4.14 on Goodreads. This is a YA contemporary romance retelling. I'm not entirely sure how much of a retelling though. So this is an interesting kind of concept. We have a girl who is resolving to be the main character of her own story when Marnie realizes she is more like Mary than like Lizzie. It's like they're talking about Pride and Prejudice, and she's relating her own life to Pride and Prejudice, and it's kind of interesting. So like, this could be done very well or very bad. And in the very bad sense, it would be like that this girl has literally never read anything else and can't find herself as the main character in a story, even if it's not Pride and Prejudice. Or I guess in the good sense, it could be like, you know, out of everything, Pride and Prejudice was her favorite, and she thought she was like Lizzie, and then she kind of has this self-actualization moment where she was like, I'm not. I'm like Mary, but that's okay, because like I'm me, you know, and that could be a very good thing. So I have high hopes, but I'm nervous. It doesn't have a really low rating right now, but that could always change because it hasn't even come out yet, so I'm gonna keep my ears peeled for that and see what other people think. We also have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is a 4.37 on Goodreads, #1 in a series. There's a lot of those coming out this year. This is an adult fantasy retelling, though, and I'm excited. This is inspired by 1001 Nights, a tale of a legendary smuggler, a cowardly prince, and a dangerous quest across the desert to find a lamp. Get out of my freaking face, okay? I'm so excited. A lot of firsts of the series coming out, but I think this one, out of all of the ones that I'm talking about, this is the one that gets me most excited, and I'm probably gonna pick it up right away. Stop it. I love retellings. I love, like, I live in a desert, okay? And so I love when fantasies take place in the desert, even when it's not my desert. You have no idea, okay? No idea. What it's like when I read a fantasy and it's like England or in the forest, or it's like very like lush, and I'm like, all right, fantasies don't take place in the desert. I see how it is, and that's probably why I love Dune. All right, moving on to March 22nd before I ramble on more about deserts. We have Wrath and Mercy by Jessica Rubinkowski. Wrath and Mercy, or The Wrath and the Mercy? I think I wrote this down wrong. 4.40 on Goodreads. This is a second in a series, YA fantasy, second to The Bright and the Pale, which is on my March-April TBR. So, I am interested. My interest in this book is contingent on how I feel about the first book. We all remember this Golden Flame. I bring it up every time, but this is why I have stopped reading my Fairy Loot and Illumicrate books. That's why it's taken me so long to get to these books. But because the sequel is coming out, I need to know if I'm going to be interested in this series or if I'm just going to take it off of my wish list and not even bother. So it has something to do with like magic and wintertime, and like this mountain has been cursed, or this mountain cursed her family, something about this mountain, and she's gonna have like a ragtag team of people, and they're running away, but they're also gonna infiltrate and fight and like save her family. Kind of reminds me of the heist in Six of Crows. I know when people I hate when we like, as a community, are like, oh yeah, it's this meets that. It's Six of Crows meets Ocean's 11. I don't know. But it does remind me of that. You can't tell me that the ice mountain, the ice castle heist doesn't sound exactly like this ice mountain that they have to infiltrate. That's like, same thing. It could be great. I'm not saying it can't be great. It could be amazing. And I'm not saying that she took anything from Six of Crows. I'm just saying you can't tell me that those things aren't similar. So we'll see how I feel about that book. The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Mueller. Look at that cover. 4.20 on Goodreads, adult fantasy mystery. Charm is a witch. Last in the line of conquered necromantic workers, she must choose between justice for her empire or her own revenge. Man, I used to think I did not like a revenge story. And girl, I was wrong. I love a revenge story. Anytime someone tells me about a book, I'm like, ooh, a revenge story? Automatically on the TBR, automatically bought. This looks so good. Yes, revenge, necromancy, magic. It's all the words. It's all of my buzzwords. All right, last 3 books we're going to talk about are coming out on March 29th. There are so many Tuesdays in March. A Magic Steeped in Poison, #1 is in a series by Judy I. Lin, has a 4.23 on Goodreads, YA fantasy mythology. It says mythology, but the description on the back didn't say like if it was a retelling or if it just feels like a myth, so I wasn't entirely sure, but it definitely feels like it's a myth. I'm just not sure if it's a retelling. And because I'm not entirely familiar with all of the Asian myths, I will not be sure until I think I read it and it becomes more clear. But look at that cover. I'm so excited, okay? I saw this on Instagram, and I think the second book is coming out later this year too, and I'm so excited. I'm probably going to pick up both of them. I just can't, okay? This is a competition between magical tea makers, a dark past, a handsome, mysterious boy with shocking secrets. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Magic, tea making, tea. Mysterious boy. Yes. Yes. This could be so well. It could totally dash my expectations, but the hope, the hype, so real, so high. So this is Ever After by F.T. Lukens is a 4.08 on Goodreads, YA fantasy romance. So looking at this cover and also looking at the cover for his other book, the name is escaping me right now. I'm trying to find it on my shelves. I can't find it on my shelves. In Deeper Water. You can't tell me that they look like they're sequels, like they're in the same series. I love that authors are doing this where it looks like all of their work looks like it belongs to them, like in the same kind of scheme, theme, something. But it confuses me because sometimes I'm stupid and I just make assumptions and I don't look into things. So I'm pretty sure I have said that In Deeper Waters was part of a series. I'm pretty sure I've once said that this is a sequel. It's not the case. It is a standalone. Also, listen to the description, okay? This is what happens after the chosen one wins the kingdom and has to get married to keep it and stay alive. So I knew the first book was also about a prince and a pirate, and I'm pretty sure they were going to get married because look at them on the cover. They're so cute. So I just did a lot of assuming, but I think you can't blame me for too much of it. Anyways, this is Carry On meets Arthurian legend in a subversive fantasy aspect. So I'm loving the Arthurian legend play-in. I'm loving that it's kind of Carry On because I read that last month somewhere. It's right there. And the thing about Carry On is that it is so interesting because you feel like it's telling you, like it skipped a bunch of stuff and apparently it wasn't that necessary because only a few things happened in those years, but you kind of feel like I don't know, it's interesting the way it's told because you feel like you're being told only a portion of the story, or you're being told things that don't matter, but they're so important, about character development and the world, and it was like jumping into Harry Potter in book 7 and there's nothing before it. So so much has happened. That's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. And I'm sorry to bring up Harry Potter, but that is what it's like. And I think it was supposed to be that. Also, it's gay and I love that. This is also gay. Oh my God, yes. All right, last book we're talking about is Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May, 3.81 on Goodreads, adult fantasy retelling. Brace yourselves. In the aftermath of World War I, a naive woman is swept into a glittering world filled with dark magic, murder, and romance. So this is a female-female romance, and it kind of reminds me of a magical Great Gatsby if the two characters we're following are the Nick and Jay characters and they were together. Make sense? That's how I kind of gathered it. I don't like historical fiction. I don't. But I feel like this is much more about being removed from the atrocities of the real world, or the hardness of the real world, and focusing more on a fantastical world where maybe the atrocities and the hardness are the same, but you're dealing with it better because it's fantastical. I don't know. And it's also giving me Gatsby vibes. I feel like a lot of things give me Gatsby vibes that not a lot of people say, or it's not intentional, but I'm feeling it and I'm enjoying it. And I honestly don't know when World War I was because I'm a plebeian, and I don't know if it's the same timeline as Gatsby. I know Gatsby was in the 20s, but I don't know when World War I was. So it's probably not, but it feels Gatsby. All right, that was all, what did I say, 18 books that I wanted to talk to you guys about, 18 books I'm excited about in March, coming out in March. Who knows how many of these I'll buy. but I'm excited for basically all of them, and anyone who does a review for them, leave a link down below. Anyone who's excited for these, tell me about it down below. Tell me what other books I didn't talk about that you're excited about in March, and I will just see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!